LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return, but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital?
Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Port Charles 411. It is part 18 of Lucky and Liz, part 24 of Lucky. This is going to have, I actually don't think the ending's that weird. However, I thought you were going to cough.
Nope.
We have a hard stop when Jacob Young ended. So this is the end of Jacob Young.
Okay.
So I just stopped on his last day, and it actually did have a kind of ending. But then next week we pick up with Greg Vaughn, or the next episode, because I don't know what next week is going to actually bring us. Who knows in the meantime? But we start in June of 2002 and it goes through February of 2003.
Okay.
So our sources for this one were Curly Q Girl, Fandom, and Soap Central, because information needed to be pulled from multiple places. So last episode we talked about how Lucky and Sarah were giving it a go again.
Ugh.
I know.
Don't disgust me.
For no reason at all.
Right.
But whatever. And Liz had been in the car accident with Gia, and Zander had popped up, right?
Yes.
Okay. Trying to remember. We talk about so much that I kind of forget. So we pick up in June of 2002, and at the docks, Liz and Lucky finally talk about moving on, both agreeing that they want the other to be happy. Later, Lucky visits Sarah at the hospital, showing his lingering concern for Liz by questioning her involvement with Zander. Determined to warn Zander, Lucky confronts him at the hospital, telling him to stay away from Liz. Xander backfires, questioning who's really wrecked her life, him or Lucky. Ooh. Meanwhile, Liz, outside arguing with Sarah, walks in on the confrontation. She immediately jumps to Xander's defense, telling Lucky to back off. Lucky insists he still cares and reminds her of what happened to Xander's last girlfriend. And we did a complete 411 on Zander, so go look him up. And it's Zander, not X.
Yes.
Liz, frustrated, argues that they failed Emily when she needed it the most. As tensions rise, Zander orders Lucky out, and Liz declares she can handle things herself. Sarah enters with Xander's release papers, and Liz warns Lucky to leave before she starts yelling. Once he's gone, Liz and Zander share a laugh as he prepares to check out. Later, after Zander plans to stay at the Port Charles Hotel to avoid Jason at Jake's, Liz offers him a place at her studio. At first, Zander refuses, but when Liz insists, pointing out it'll irritate Lucky, he agrees. Once there, Liz jokingly highlights the studio's amenities, a hot plate, sink, paint fumes, and a sofa bed. A knock interrupts them. Expecting Lucky, Liz is shocked to find Jason at the door. Has Lucky talked to Liz about her studio being burned down since he's been back?
Mm-mm.
That's going to have to come up.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next week, Lucky just goes back to work. He's back to being the photographer at Deception. And this was a lot more of Nicholas and Gia, but obviously Lucky's involved because it's his job. But basically Gia's being a little bit of a diva. And Lucky is like, you need to honor your contract. And Nicholas is, defending Gia. And Gia basically is just not having any of it. She doesn't want to listen to Lucky's warnings, I guess.
They kind of inflated her sense of self there at that time because she went from being a Deception model, which not saying that that's not impressive. She was a beautiful girl. Deception was a big company, but a model for one specific company is not a supermodel. And that was how Nicholas was building her up. You have made it. Now you're going to be a supermodel, like Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford. No, you're not. Not from one campaign. Calm yourself down.
Right. And so she storms out, and Lucky continues with the photo shoot without her. And Nicholas and her Gia's publicist are discussing her future as a supermodel. So basically being like, we don't need deception. She can do this anywhere. So then Sarah comes in and Lucky's shooting the other models or whatever. And Lucky confides in Gia's talents, but voices frustration over her and Nicholas's approach to her career, basically not wanting it to be stable. Exactly like you said, overinflated self. You see it all the time where people leave very popular TV shows to start their movie career and they never make it.
Right.
And it's because they leave because they think that they should be more recognized or higher, whatever, in the whatever scale it is that they're using. And it's like, no, this is like a collaborative effort. And that's kind of what was going on here. Gia wanted to be the one and only.
Mm-hmm.
So then at the Port Charles Grill, Laura asks about the shoot and Lucky vents about Nicholas essentially buying Gia's success. Concerned, Laura resolves to confront them. Meanwhile, at Lucky's studio, because this is still when Laura owned Deception, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At Lucky's studio, Sarah intercepts his schedule, taking it upon herself to reschedule his meeting. When Lucky arrives, she has surprised him by recreating their first moment in the barn, playfully telling him to close his eyes before revealing herself. The Lucky insists he's busy. Sarah skillfully distracts him, suggesting they go public with their relationship. And then later at Kelly, Sarah sits with Laura, claiming that she wants to support Lucky. But before Laura can process the conversation, Sarah just gets up and leaves. And Laura's like, what the heck just happened?
Right, because she's like, my son's in love with your sister, not you. What the heck are you doing?
Right. Because I think that she was trying to get on Laura's good graces and was like, oh, she'll be fine with us coming out. And then in the meantime, this is where it was getting hard, like on how to pull, because I don't want to do so much on Liz.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're focusing on Lucky, even though this is the Lucky Liz part. So when we do Liz, we're going to have to try to figure out how to cover the little things like this. That's going to be a fun one to try to piece together with this. Oh, darn it. Okay. Just thought of that. So basically what happened was Liz was kidnapped from her studio. And now she is in a dark crypt. And she realizes that she's being used as leverage against Jason. And so she warns him of the trap before her captor silences her. Left in the darkness, him is Jason, sorry. Left in the darkness, she desperately searches for an escape, only to come face to face with skeletal remains. Her situation gets worse when Zander is thrown in after investigating her kidnapping. As they piece together their captor's deadly plan, Liz devises a scheme to fake Xander's death, but it backfires, leaving them battered and imprisoned. Refusing to give up, Liz knows they must find another way out before it's too late. And I think what happened was the cave wound up crumbling or blocking their exit.
Right. I was going to say, I think it had multiple paths and it blocked the one they were on. Growing anxious over Liz's disappearance, Lucky confides in Sarah, who dismisses his concern, insisting Liz can handle herself. What kind of sister is she? What the heck? Frustrated and guilt-ridden, Lucky refuses to let it go. His search leads him to the docks where he confronts Jason. Tensions escalate into a near fight before Nicholas intervenes. Lucky later informs Nicholas and Gia, but Sarah downplays the situation, suggesting Liz might be seeking attention. That night at Club 101, Gia pulls Lucky into the spotlight, praising him as her beauty secret, but his thoughts remain on Liz.
Basically because he's such a great photographer that she looks great because of him.
She should remember that whenever she's trying to go be a supermodel.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, trapped in the crypt, Liz panics when her captor stops checking in. In desperation, she and Zander share a kiss, but their escape attempt turns disastrous when they accidentally rupture a gas line. As fumes fill the crypt, Liz loses consciousness and Zander struggles before succumbing as well. Jason fights his way into the crypt, but Sunny stops him from shooting the lock after smelling gas. Good job, Sunny. They manage to pull Liz out, unaware that Zander is still inside. When Liz asks about him, Sunny rushes back just as the crypt explodes, sending him flying. Though shaken, Jason, Sunny, and Liz survive. Jason later finds a severely injured Zander in the rubble just as Taggart arrives, forcing Jason and Sunny to defend Liz. Later, Sarah overhears Lucky ordering Liz 24 white roses with a heartfelt note, but confronts him after he hangs up. Lucky lies about the call. If your man is sending 24 roses to another woman, you should realize that you're not his woman. Okay.
Yeah. Especially when the other woman is an ex that he is obviously still into.
Yeah. 24 roses is not, oh, you just had surgery. I hope you feel better. Flowers. Okay.
Yeah.
In her hospital room.
I'll send you 2 white roses.
Right.
The next time you're in the hospital.
I would be like, Shannon, I love you, but not in that way. Okay. Stick with JD.
That's a lot. Listen, love you. I'm not spending that kind of money on you. I'll send you a bunch of DoorDash gift cards for the same price and you'll be able to get dinner.
There you go. In her hospital room, Liz and Jason share a moment when he gives her a postcard from Italy explaining he needed to see her before sending it. Liz admits she longed for a connection with him, while Jason blames himself for her kidnapping. She confesses she both regretted knowing him and believed he would save her. When Jason insists he doesn't want to put her in danger again, Liz worries he's trying to end their friendship for her own safety. Sarah takes Liz for tests, but not before throwing passive-aggressive jabs at her. She accuses Liz of using the ordeal for attention and to win Lucky back. Liz fires back, asserting that her life doesn't revolve around Lucky and that she values Jason for his honesty. After Liz leaves, Sarah spitefully throws away Lucky's flowers just as Lucky arrives. Furious, he confronts her. Their argument escalates, with Lucky admitting they're together for all the wrong reasons. He suggests they break up before causing more damage, and Sarah, enraged, agrees, snidely remarking that Liz had already replaced him with Jason. When Liz returns, she's cordial to Lucky. He offers her a single white rose he retrieved from the trash, but she tells him to give it to Sarah. Mm-hmm. Lucky then realizes her and Sarah have broken up. Oh, reveals. I'm like, realizes what? Lucky then reveals he and Sarah have broken up. Liz offers condolences, but admits she's grateful their relationship helped her realize she and Lucky were over. With that, Lucky leaves. Later, Liz's grandmother visits, questioning her choice in friends. As they talk, Liz receives flowers, this time from Zander.
And this is where we kind of take like a little mini break between Lucky and Liz. And I almost stopped, but then I remembered that stuff happens later on with Lucky and Liz. So we're not going to hear about Liz for a while because it's where the Zander Jason storyline stuff and Sarah left after she and Lucky broke up.
Which was weird because it made it seem like Sarah only came back to be with Lucky, and that wouldn't have been her intent because she originally came for their wedding.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, she came after the wedding, and she was sorry that she had missed it.
Right. But it was within that time frame, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So then in August, Lucky resumes his work as a photographer for Deception while Luke and Laura plan their wedding. As Laura suffers disturbing flashbacks, Luke found an old camera and had Lucky develop the film, revealing an image of blood-covered Scott Baldwin. This led Luke and Lucky to uncover a long-buried secret from Laura's past. Before the wedding, Luke and Laura disappeared. Lucky and Nicholas searched for them, but instead found Rick Weber dead in the attic. Believing Luke was responsible, they staged Rick's death as a drunk driving accident. However, Scott and Mac immediately saw through it. Haunted by his actions, Lucky soon found himself under suspicion. Scott questioned Lucky and Nicholas, ultimately arresting Lucky after finding his fingerprints on Rick's car. At the station, Alexis arrived to help, pressing Lucky for the truth. He insisted he didn't kill Rick, but admitted to finding his body in the attic. Alexis was incredulous at their cover-up. Determined to prove Luke was being framed, Lucky accused Scott of the murder. Meanwhile, Mac verified that the blood found in the attic belonged to Rick. Nicholas suggested bribing a cop who had ticketed them the night they moved the body, but later urged cooperation with Scott to protect Gia. Lucky speculated that Laura might have killed Rick. Alexis questioned why Scott had gone straight to the attic from Luke and Laura's wedding, but he dismissed it as DA instincts. Taggart arrested Gia as an accessory after the fact, accusing Nicholas of dragging her into his mess. Meanwhile, Scott confronted Nicholas about conspiring with Lucky. Nicholas accused Scott of planting evidence, while Scott warned that juries wouldn't be lenient on rich kids like them. Alexis later cornered Scott, questioning his role in Laura's repressed memories and showing him the incriminating photo of him covered in what appeared to be blood. Scott dismissed it as anything from motor oil to popsicle juice. When Scott used Lulu to pressure Lucky, Nicholas urged Lucky to turn Luke in.
Why can't I picture Scott Baldwin eating a popsicle?
I know, I'm like...
But at the same time, I can.
I'm in one way, the popsicle is more convincing than motor oil, because I don't picture Scott doing some car maintenance either.
There is no way he was.
Yeah, that was just a weird, I was like, huh? Okay. Alexis secured Lucky's release by blackmailing Scott with evidence from the Teresa Carter case, suspecting he was protecting someone, possibly Laura. Meanwhile, Scott wiretapped Lucky's phone and overheard a call with Luke. At Kelly's, Lucky, Nicholas, and Alexis discussed how Scott was trying to pin Rick's murder on Luke. Alexis warned against involving Gia, fearing too many people knowing the truth would backfire. Lucky mentioned Luke had called, but was tense and non-committal, making no mention of Laura. At the PCPD, Taggart challenged Scott's illegal wiretap, but Scott insisted he would do whatever it took. That doesn't make it not illegal. That doesn't make it admissible in court.
Right.
Gia visited Taggart, who warned her to stay out of the mess, and she sweet-talked him into letting her go. Alexis later confronted Scott about how he became DA, questioning whether Rick had positioned him there to protect Laura. Scott grew uneasy. Meanwhile, in an undisclosed barn, Luke held a disoriented Laura captive, insisting he was protecting her. When she banged her head against the wall, he pleaded with her to work together as they always had. She remained silent until he removed her gag, then thanked him.
I don't like he held her captive.
Yeah, I don't like that.
He did, but it wasn't... He was protecting her. So this was a really difficult one to cherry pick, because I was like, okay, Lucky is kind of involved in it, but then he is, because he's being suspected of the murder. So it's like we had to at least do a very, very high level. But I believe at the time, Luke thought that Laura did kill Rick. And this is when she was starting to have repressed memories and starting to kind of detach from from And so Luke was protecting her. He wasn't...
Right.
I don't like that. Captive. It sounds like given their past, the sentence disoriented and captive sounds like he drugged her and dragged her out,
Right. No. He didn't drug her. He did have her against her will, but it was because he was afraid that she was going to go confess to something that she didn't know that she had done, because she didn't have complete memories of the situation.
Yeah, they were just trying to get married. So it was definitely not...
Just let me get married.
Yeah.
Do you want me to keep going?
Oh, no, I can go.
All right.
So then back at Kelly's, Alexis told Lucky that she no longer believed Scott killed Teresa Carter, but suspected he was covering for someone, possibly Laura. Lucky was sensing someone was following him, and he grew increasingly paranoid. Lucky and Nicholas argued over Luke's intentions, with Lucky refusing to believe that Luke was holding Laura hostage, like we just talked about. When Scott called Nicholas for a meeting, Nicholas didn't inform Lucky or Gia. Luke later called Nicholas, warning him that Lucky's phone was tapped and instructing him to relay a message. When Nicholas asked to speak with Laura, Luke refused. On the docks, Scott confronted Nicholas, playing a tape of the previous day's wiretapped conversation. Why wouldn't Luke think that his line wasn't tapped? Because they were looking for Laura. Yeah, they were looking for Luke, but they knew that they were together, so... Of course, both of her adult sons' phones are going to be tapped. He urged Nicholas to cooperate, warning that Laura might not be safe with Luke. Meanwhile, Luke panicked upon discovering that Laura had vanished from the barn. Scott arrived with the police, but found no trace of Luke or Laura, only a piece of a white veil on the floor. At Kelly's, Nicholas admitted to Gia that he had tipped off Scott. When Lucky arrived, Nicholas argued that Scott genuinely cared about Laura and that Luke might be dangerous. Lucky accused him of shifting suspicion onto Luke to protect himself. Matt called Scott with news that Luke's car was spotted, sending him rushing off. Lucky was furious with Nicholas for betraying Luke, insisted that Laura might have completely lost her grip on reality with her buried memories resurfacing. And then in September, Luke and Laura did return to Port Charles, and Laura suffered a severe breakdown, devastating her sons, and she was institutionalized. And this is when Laura went into that
catatonic state
that she was in for 4 years, that you'll hear her reference every now and again now that Lulu's out of her second round. And then Nicholas and Lucky argued over who killed Rick Weber, with Nicholas offering to use his hospital connections to arrange a visit with Laura. Lucky visited Luke, who urged him to support his story and not challenge it, but Lucky hesitated. Like, Luke was going to take the rep for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alexis visited Laura, updating her on Nicholas, Lucky, and Lulu while revealing that Luke was in jail for Rick's murder. When Alexis tried to piece together the events of that night, Laura's delusions took over, with her hallucinated teenage self warning her not to trust Alexis. Laura became agitated, forcing staff to remove Alexis. Later, Nicholas and Lucky visited Laura, but she was overjoyed but insisted she just needed rest. When Lucky mentioned Luke's imprisonment, her hallucination returned, again warning her against them. Despite their efforts, Laura remained lost in her fractured reality, deepening their concern. At Kelly's, Bobby defended Luke while Lucky and Nicholas clashed. Fed up, Gia urged them to work together for Laura and Lulu. Lucky stormed off to see Luke, telling him that Laura was where she needed to be. He didn't want Luke to be in jail, but Luke hinted at an escape plan. Luke pled guilty to Rick's murder and returned to jail. Disguised as a guard, Lucky visited, but Luke refused his help. Scott nearly caught Lucky, while Nicholas, grateful for Luke's sacrifice, wrote a love letter to Laura as Luke dictated it. Before his prison transfer, Luke told Lucky to meet Roy at the docks and follow his instructions, but Roy never showed, and when Lucky checked the police station, he learned that Luke had already escaped without him. Taggart was suspicious and questioned Lucky, but Scott took over. Meanwhile, Nicholas and Alexis provided Lucky with an alibi, though Alexis later scolded him for putting her in that position. Nicholas then admitted that he had helped Luke escape. Though initially angry, Lucky thanked him. At Alexis's apartment, Lucky sought her help in blocking Scott's election with the Teresa Carter case. He theorized about Scott's involvement, but Alexis dismissed it, urging him to face reality. Lucky reluctantly conceded and left. And then when Alexis announced her DA candidacy against Scott, Bobby confronted Scott about targeting her entire family, including Lucky. Scott claimed that he had let Lucky off easy, but Lucky scoffed, asking if that's what Scott had told her. Meanwhile, outside, Liz questioned Jason about spending the night with Courtney. Bobby defended Scott. Lucky insisted she was searching for good in a man who had none.
Oof.
Then in October at Club 101, reporters were swarming Gia, but she firmly announced that Alexis and Scott's debate would happen that week. As Scott left, Lucky snapped photos, prompting Scott to quip about getting his good side, and Lucky shot back, "Then you'll have to turn around, Baldwin." At Kelly's, Lucky, Gia, Nicholas, Ned, and Alexis strategized for the debate, with Lucky and Nicholas pressing Alexis to reveal what Scott might have on her. Outside, Nicholas and Lucky decided to break into Scott's office to find out for themselves. Gia entered first, expecting Scott, but finding her brother Marcus instead. While Nicholas and Lucky, disguised as plumbers, waited outside, Gia tried to learn Scott's whereabouts. She finally convinced Marcus to escort her to Kelly's, giving Nicholas and Lucky the chance to break in, only for Scott to catch them red-handed. And then Scott taunted them, calling them Heckle and Jekyll, but they insisted that they were looking for evidence to clear Luke, not dirt on Alexis. Scott told Alexis, who arrived just as Lucky punched Scott. However, when they threatened to expose Scott's shady dealings with Teresa Carter, he chose not to press charges, covering by claiming it was out of respect for Laura and Bobby. Determined to uncover Scott's plan, Nicholas and Lucky broke in again and found a signed affidavit by Carly confirming that she caught Sonny and Alexis in bed.
Oof.
Nicholas trying to ward Alexis before the debate, but officials blocked his call. During the debate, Scott smugly revealed Carly's statement as evidence. And this is the thing, like, there's so much going on the outside, but, like, you need these little sprinkles. Yeah. It's like a whole bunch of cupcakes, but they all have the same sprinkles. Sorry.
That makes me hungry for cupcakes.
Nicholas and Lucky left early after receiving a call from GH. Alan informed them that Laura's condition had worsened after someone, likely Luke, tried to abduct her from the London hospital. Now catatonic, she required legal approval for medication. Lucky resisted, hoping she would recover without drugs, and they told Alan to deny treatment for now. Struggling with the weight of it all, Lucky confided in Liz, fearing his family was beyond saving. As they walked over the bridge, Liz urged Lucky not to lose hope. Their conversation was interrupted when Jason and Courtney ran by, chasing Rosie, the dog. Afterward, Lucky accused Liz of denying her feelings for Jason. Liz insisted she could never accept Jason's dangerous lifestyle, especially his secrecy. Lucky sarcastically reminded her that mobsters aren't known for confiding in people, and Liz pointed out that Jason personally guarded Courtney when Sonny had plenty of men for the job, proving that there was more to it. Kelly, go ahead.
I'm sad. I'm sad that Liz was like hurt by him getting together with Courtney. There wasn't like a real start or stop, and she was just kind of left like, man, I don't have Lucky and I don't have Jason.
Right. Then at Kelly's, a messenger delivered a package to Lucky. It was Luke's will. Lucky told Nicholas and Liz that he believed Luke saw his life as over now that Laura was lost. Huh. I wonder if Luke updated his will.
Probably not.
Okay. Lucky told Nicholas and Liz he believed Luke saw his life as over now that Laura was lost. Scott overheard and warned them that aiding an escaped felon was a crime. When Scott pushed, Lucky threatened to expose his past indiscretions. Alexis reviewed Luke's will, searching for clues about his location. The package had been sent from Atlantic City. Lucky planned to track Luke down, but Nicholas refused to go, accusing Lucky of causing more harm. Bobby intervened, urging them not to tear their family apart. Nicholas suggested that she manipulate Scott into thinking she had forgiven him to keep him distracted. Liz, inserting herself into Lucky's plan, insisted on going with him. Following a lead, Lucky and Liz discovered Luke on a chain gang in a small town. Okay, keep in mind, this is how it was written. Liz posed as Laura to secure a conjugal visit, but Luke saw through the act and ordered them to leave. Later, Lucky infiltrated the prison, disguising himself in a stolen uniform. When the other inmates began harassing him, Luke intervened, demanding that Lucky prove himself by fighting. Instead, they argued, and Luke insisted no one, not even him, could save Laura. Lucky disagreed, believing that Luke was the only one who could. While doing yard work, Lucky tried convincing Luke to escape. Luke refused until Liz arrived in a flashy outfit, distracting the guards by faking car trouble. Lucky broke their chains, and when the guards went to help Liz, they made a run for it. Liz later caught up to them at the barn, but authorities were already on to them. Arrested and set to be extradited, Luke bitterly told Lucky, "You got what you wanted. We're going home. Happy now?"
And then in November, as authorities return Lucky, Luke, and Elizabeth to Port Charles, Scott receives a call at Club 101 gloating to Nicholas and Gia that Luke is back in custody before alerting the press. Mac asks Scott for Luke's file, but Scott claims it's in his office and insists on retrieving it himself. Overhearing this, Nicholas and Gia suspect Scott is hiding something and rush to beat him there. Using a stolen key, Nicholas lets Gia inside while he keeps watch. Gia sees Scott take an audio tape from Luke's file and hide it in his costume before leaving. They follow him, determined to steal it. At the PCPD, Scott drops charges against Lucky and Elizabeth, but Lucky remains unimpressed. Luke later accuses Scott of manipulating the Weber murder case to pursue Laura. Nicholas and Gia bring the tape to Alexis, discovering Laura's confession to killing Rick Weber. Since Scott's voice is on it, it proves he knew Luke was innocent, but prosecuted him anyway. While Nicholas fears it could incriminate Laura, Alexis assures them it won't go public, only used to force Scott to release Luke. At Kelly's, Elizabeth comforts Lucky about Luke's state of mind. Meanwhile, Alexis confronts Scott, threatening to expose the truth unless he frees Luke. Later, Luke begs Lucky to destroy the confession tape, but Lucky refuses, unwilling to aid in his father's self-destruction. Instead, he urges Alexis to release it, not wanting Luke to be imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. When Lucky enters, Luke turns on him, accusing him of using Laura's confession to clear himself. They fight until Ned breaks it up. Enraged, Luke storms off to the PCPD, sets off the fire alarm, and sets the squad room ablaze. After dousing himself in alcohol, he collapses, ready to let the flames consume him. Lucky rushes inside despite police warnings. He finds Luke unconscious, trapped under a fallen beam. Freeing him, Lucky refuses to leave without him, forcing Luke to escape through the flames. Paramedics take Luke to GH despite his protests. Scott later tells Lucky he won't press arson charges, but urges him to get Luke psychiatric help. Suspicious of Scott's motives, Lucky visits Luke, determined not to let him spiral further. Luke, however, wants to be left alone, but Lucky refuses to give up. Scott assures Luke he won't charge Laura, but Luke remains skeptical. Later, Leslie, Elizabeth, Lucky, and Nicholas receive a summons from Luke to meet in Riker Woods. They arrive to find him digging a grave, symbolically burying Laura. While Leslie and the boys protest, Bobby arrives with Leslie Liu, who runs into Luke's arms, softening his mood. Covering for his actions, he tells his daughter they're planting a tree for Laura. Meanwhile, Elizabeth learns Jason married Brenda. Though Courtney believes Jason was helping Brenda, Elizabeth reminds her Jason takes vows seriously. Shocked, she confides in Zander, who reassures her she hasn't lost anything. Outside Kelly's, as the season's first snow falls, a passerby urges Elizabeth to make a wish. She wishes for happiness and is assured it's on its way. At Luke's club, Jason informs Elizabeth and Lucky that Brenda isn't dying and their marriage will be annulled. Elizabeth, however, tells him they wouldn't have worked out anyway and no longer wants to be involved in his life. Though hurt, Jason accepts it and walks away. Lucky later doubts Luke's court-appointed psychiatrist, Cameron, since Scott recommended him. Elizabeth urges him to give Cameron a chance, believing it's better than prison. Cameron warns Lucky that Luke is deteriorating, claiming to see Laura lookalikes and even imagining saving one from a truck. Concerned, Lucky finds Luke, who insists the woman was real. Later, he grabs another blonde with a blue scarf, convinced she's the same one. When Lucky confronts him, Luke denies any delusion, insisting Cameron is the one with the problem. And then in December, Lucky and Cameron arrive at Luke's club to find a sign inviting people to take whatever they want. As they chase away looters, Cameron warns Lucky that Luke is getting worse, claiming he's delusional about a woman named Summer who resembles Laura but has never been seen by anyone else. Though concerned, Lucky believes Luke is in emotional pain rather than truly crazy. They find Luke in the park handing out money and calling on Summer to appear at the club to prove she's real. Cameron insists Luke is convincing himself of a fantasy, angering Lucky. Later, they watch Luke on the evening news at the club, where Cameron shares his concerns. Luke dismisses him, but moments later, two men in white suits arrive to take Luke away. Lucky tries to intervene, but Cameron insists Luke needs help and that he's the one to provide it. Lucky arrives at Kelly's and tells Liz that his father has been committed, so that he has lost both parents now. Did back in the day they really have men come for you in white suits? Because why is it always portrayed that way?
I don't know. It's just it's like the blue packet.
Right. I don't know. Like we've talked about, Ryan works at the mental hospital. He doesn't talk about men in white suits walking around. So I don't know that that's a thing. Meanwhile, Summer was real, and Luke was trying to help her get a good job. Summer didn't want his help, but decided to sign up for some summer classes. She was reading a brochure when Lucky entered the room and suggested she not take a particular class with some professor who he told her was a jerk. Summer looked up at Lucky with a curious look on her face. As Summer signed up for classes at Port Charles University, she ran into Lucky. When they struck up a conversation, Summer told Lucky that her name was Laura. When Summer mentioned that her last job had involved a lot of pretending, Lucky suggested that she sign up for some drama classes. And then in January, Lucky asks Luke for help with college tuition, but Luke brushes him off. Later at the PCPD, Scott informs Lucky that he's free to go. When Lucky spots Summer in the interrogation room, he demands to know why she's there. Scott smugly reveals that his new girlfriend is a former prostitute. Shocked, Lucky confronts Summer, who admits she used to be into that life, but got out of it with the help of an older man. She explains that her powerful, manipulative ex-boyfriend likely orchestrated both her arrest and sudden release to remind her that he still controls her life. Summer later finds a note from Luke saying he'll be away for a while. When Lucky catches up with her, he questions why she skipped her acting class. Summer agrees to explain over coffee at Kelly's, when Nicholas pulls Lucky aside, warning him that Luke is once again trying to rescue their mother. As Lucky introduces Summer to Nicholas, Liz watches them jealously from a distance. As Lucky and Summer talk, he opens up about his mother's institutionalization and how it has left Luke devastated. Summer relates his father's pain to her older friend, explaining that he too lost someone he loved and is clinging to her memory, unaware that she's talking about Luke. Lucky listens intently. That evening, Lucky takes Summer to Jake's, where she runs into one of her former clients. When the man refuses to take no for an answer, Lucky intervenes, grabbing him by the collar and warning him to leave Summer alone. Upset, Summer accuses Lucky of wanting to possess her. Lucky, taken aback, insists he was only trying to protect her, explaining that he knows 2 women who were raped. Realizing she misjudged him, Summer apologizes, and Lucky offers to walk her home. After parting ways, Summer enters her apartment to find her ex-lover, the senator. Hey, they make all senators bad.
I know.
The senator waiting for her with a smug, possessive expression. Later, when Lucky returns to take her to dinner, he finds her lying on the floor, bruised and barely conscious. Horrified, he urges her to go to the hospital or call the police, but Summer refuses, insisting there's nothing she can do. She takes a shower while Lucky waits, still shaken. When she returns, he pleads with her to fight back, but she remains firm. Her only option is to let it go. Exhausted, she asks him to leave, but promises to call him. As Lucky leaves, he spots Scott schmoozing with the senator. From the shadows, he watches as the senator praises Scott's handling of the Alcazar case before discreetly slipping him an envelope. Suspicious, Lucky confronts Scott, accusing him of covering up Summer's assault. Scott, skeptical, follows Lucky to see Summer for himself. Upon witnessing her injuries, he's visibly shaken. He later arranges a secret meeting on the docks where he blackmails the senator into leaving Summer alone. While Summer thanks Scott, Lucky is unsettled by her gratitude towards him. Still troubled, Lucky visits Bobby and asks how she managed to leave her past as a prostitute behind her and build a new life as a nurse. However, he keeps Summer's past a secret. Meanwhile, at Kelly's, Liz excitedly tells Lucky about her growing relationship with Rick. Ugh. Lucky then tells her about the girl he met at Port Charles University, who, unbeknownst to him, Liz already knows about. When Summer arrives, she reassures Lucky that Scott was only mildly flirting with her the night before. She invites him to dinner, leading to their first kiss. However, as things heat up, she abruptly pulls away, confessing that she doesn't know how to handle a real relationship. Lucky assures her he's willing to take things slow. Over time, Lucky and Summer grow closer, but their relationship remains complicated. Summer admits she struggles with intimacy, while Lucky shares his past relationship with Liz and Sarah. One night, she kisses him passionately, only to suddenly pull away and run off, leaving Lucky confused. Liz later suggests that maybe Summer wanted him to chase after her. Their dynamic takes another turn when Summer tells Lucky she's not used to being treated well and doesn't know if she can date him. Hurt but understanding, Lucky gives her space. However, she later returns to Kelly's to return his glove, and he seizes the opportunity to ask if she's in love with her older friend. Summer insists the relationship is purely platonic, though she remains defensive when pressed. Meanwhile, Luke and Bobby discuss Carly's new club in the basement of Kelly's. Concerned about potential problems, Luke suggests hiring a Spencer to manage things, and Bobby proposes Lucky for the job. Unbeknownst to Lucky, Summer slips upstairs and enters his room, initiating a passionate kiss. They begin making love, but before things can go further, Luke knocks on the door. Lucky brushes him off, and Luke leaves without realizing Summer is inside. Afterward, Lucky admits the encounter felt impersonal, like he was one of her former clients. Offended, Summer insists she doesn't allow herself to care about people and storms off.
And that's it for Jacob Young. So I looked up the white coats.
Okay.
And according to worldhistories.net, the men in the white coats meaning and origin is a reference to the traditional use of white coats by medical personnel, and the humorous phrase "the men in the white coats" denotes psychiatrists or psychiatric workers. This phrase is often used in the stereotypical image of mental health disorder person being borne away to the psychiatric hospital by psychiatric workers. These are, in chronological order, the earliest occurrences of the phrase that I found. I'm not reading them all, but the very first one is from the Quincy Patriot Ledger from Quincy, Mass. On Saturday, May 9th, 1936.
Oh, wow.
Should a man walk up to you and offer you $500 to remove a valuable article from his store, you'd undoubtedly blink twice, clap your hat down hard on your head, and run to the nearest phone to call for the men in white coats. So basically, if someone tried to give you money to steal something,
you'd say they were crazy by calling someone to take them away.
Our language has changed so much. You clap your hat down on your head. I love it. Love it.
Thanks for looking that up. Because, I was like, that is how you always see it. Why did it actually ever happen that way?
Right. It's always fun to learn little things like that. But yeah, so that's where we're ending with Lucky this week. Lucky and Liz this week. So I didn't realize in, 8 months? Well, no, I guess she and Lucky were done. So in a year, she and Lucky were done. She hadn't done anything with Zander. Like they had just gotten trapped and kissed. Mm-hmm. But she had tossed around the idea of Jason and then started dating Rick.
Yeah, that was a lot.
And isn't it funny that all three men are still around-ish?
Mm-hmm.
Not Xander's fault that he's dead.
No, but she has a nice remembrance of him for life, so.
He does. Oh, and that's the other thing. We I don't think we did a 411 about Cameron, but Cameron in this episode is Xander's dad, and who Cameron Weber is named after.
Very cute.
Yeah. So I guess join us on Monday as we recap this week's shows.
Have a good weekend.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to pier54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review.
And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Pier 54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at pier54podcast@gmail.com.